But for now, I'll pass the mic over to my good friend and mentor, Damon Taziyah, to talk a little bit about this third Alchemy cohort that we're getting started and, yeah, what that's going to look like. And then y'all can ask him some hard questions.
Thank you, Chin. Um, and feel free to come off mute and ask questions at any time. I don't know if you ever sat in any cafe creative meetings, but we kind of freestyle. That's how I like to kind of go back and forth. But I am going to be co-facilitating with J. Rue, of course, with Kepra and some other notables in the city on Alchemy Cohort 3, which is our third cohort in support of BIPOC, Black and Brown entrepreneurs in and around the city of Indianapolis. Um, and as well, as everybody's kind of stated, Imhotep and everybody else, with a particular focus on those who are interested in building community wealth through cooperatives or through cooperative management of their company. And we'll kind of talk more about those distinctions and stuff later. But I'm really excited about the third cohort. I missed out on the first cohort. I think that was pre-COVID, and we did the second cohort, which I was fully immersed in and got a good strong butt whooping. But it was a great cohort. I think I worked closely with Diop, M, Jenny, Chin, just everybody, Mimi, and that was really great because I went through that cohort and learned a lot about community wealth building, which is how we at Kepler look at uh, wealth in general, just in terms of capital is not just about financial. There's also cultural, social, intellectual. Um, you do have financial capital in there, but that's just one of the pillars that really supports community and what we call community wealth. And so we'll be spearheading Alchemy Cohort 3. The format is still a lot like the other Alchemy cohorts. We've learned a lot from the previous years, made a lot of mistakes, failed a lot, and modified. We'll probably do a lot of that in this cohort as well. But it's just like the last cohort. We had 30 members that went through the cohort, and we're looking for another 30 members as well through this cohort. And so applications are now open. I hope somebody can kind of drop in the link in the chat. So if anybody online wants to click on kind of the pre-application, it's now open for those to fill out. We're looking for 30. I think today we crossed that by about 60%. So we're about 60% towards that goal. We may extend it an extra week, but the cohort starts October 15th. So we're going to come back for a Mumbo Jumbo, and we're going to start with a workshop that kind of guides entrepreneurs that are in the cohort and not in the cohort in formulating their LLCs, cooperatives, INCs, nonprofits, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to talk about those different types of company structures, how they can operate cooperatively within their own structures, and then also walk through with a couple of entrepreneurs on like setting up that LLC. So that'll be a hands-on workshop, and that'll be October 15th. That's a Wednesday, right? So fact check me on that. But I'm really excited about that because that's in high request. We did a similar cohort a couple of years ago where we through our RLP, our recoverable loan program, which is part of our Kepler integrated fund, we supported, I think it was 10 or 12 entrepreneurs with setting up their LLCs and getting into business. And so that's just some of the things that we do in the overall program. I'm a I'm gonna do the bad thing and read something real quick, so bear with me, and then I'll kind of just freestyle and open it up to questions. But I think this is great news, and it wasn't until recently that I kind of looked at what the Kepler work has looked like over the Indianapolis landscape since COVID with entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs, cooperatives, community activists, et cetera, artists especially. I think this is good stuff. Of course, through Alkhemy, we've launched a multi-platform, multi-capital model rooted in 4 forms of community capital, which is cultural capital, financial capital, intellectual capital, and social capital. There's a 5th one, but we'll talk about that one later. Since its inception, the program has supported over 50 entrepreneurs of color in and around the city of Indianapolis, contributed to 120 new livable wage jobs in Metro Indianapolis, delivered 75 skill building trainings. I was in a lot of those, not quite 75, but I know of 50 at least. We had engaged 800 participants. I think we're close to 500 on our platform now, which is alchemy.kepra.org, right? So we're trying to get our platform up to 800, but physically through the platform, hybrid, etc. We've had 800 participants either attend a workshop, come to our community conversations around cooperative development and how cooperatives have been a strong part of our collective courage, and hosted more than 30 public events. Participants have reported an average 25% increase in income, and 85% of supported businesses that have gone through the cohort are still in business. Through our KIF fund, which is our Kepra Integrated Fund, which I believe we launched 18 months ago, we've supported entrepreneurs north of 200K in the city and around the city through our RLP program, and we look to do a lot more support, particularly around cooperative development, things like conversions, and how do we look at collectively building our wealth in the city through entrepreneurial lens. And so we're excited about the growth of the KIF fund. And then, of course, coinciding with that is the Alkhemy Cohort 3. And so I'll pause there if there's any questions about some of that. If not, I'll run through and then kind of open the floor. Thanks, Alvin. Alvin just posted the application, so be sure to fill that out. I feel like I got a good feeling like by Friday we'll be at like 45, and it's gonna have to go through our decision matrix. That's kind of what the average has been. I think we're about 5 a day now. So make
Damon,
sure
I got a question for you.
For sure.
As a person who has had entrepreneurial experiences, what have been some of the things you've learned going through the cohort process, and kind of what you anticipate people learning from it?
For me, I try to keep it high level. Kind of one of the main things that I learned is I was a particular type of entrepreneur that was kind of a run it up hustler type of entrepreneur, and didn't really know. Well, I did know because I've been a part of Kepra, but didn't really slow down to build a sustainable foundation for the operation. So, you can you can go high and fly high, but you can also fall as well too. So that's one of the learning curves. And then just really understanding what true relationship building is, and still learning that every day, and that being central to how business and pretty much everything else gets done in society today is through relationships. So that's one thing I'm still learning. I think another lesson that I learned in and out of the cooperative, I guess now more so leading the cohort on this end, is kind of the same things that are faults in the corporate world are what makes a large majority, particularly creative entrepreneurs, successful as creative entrepreneurs. And so just really coming to terms with my my purpose as a social entrepreneur and creative cooperator, and leaning into that versus trying to fit into a particular model. And it's not that I'm sorry. So yeah, and so those are some of the things. And then too, I just think going through the cohort, the last thing is just really organizing and how to communicate with community in a way that can be received by community. And so that's really the finesse right there. Once you can kind of get in that pocket, you've kind of got some sense of mastery over that particular subject or whatever. So I don't want to keep drifting off, but that's kind of one of the living lessons that I'm still learning.
Since this being the third, what are let me on the more technical. When is the pre-applications due? Is the due date?
So we've had some conversation around that. The due date is the 29th. I think we promoted that in the newsletter, but we're probably extended a week. So we're pushing the new due date to October 3rd. And to be honest, this, I'm a creative entrepreneur, so we're trying some things here. And with this particular cohort, it'll be an extended cohort. So we do have an application due date to be kind of in the physical hybrid cohort, but all these classes, courses, etc., will be on Alkhemy Plus, which is our platform, alkhemy.kepler.org. And so you can attend, catch up, and still follow through online. All the entrepreneurs that will be in the actual physical cohort or hybrid cohort will be on that platform. We're using that platform to kind of facilitate the curriculum and everything. So all the activity will be on that hub. So there really isn't a due date. This particular cohort is our longest running one. We're running our first block from now until January, and we'll do a showcase for Ujima Kwanzaa. So that'll be our first block, but our plan is to extend it into 3 other blocks, so that's a year-long cohort. That was kind of one of the learning lessons, is that entrepreneurship is, a lot of the cohort programs are like 12 weeks, meet once a week, we throw a couple dollars on you and see you later. So we've learned through our kid fund, as well as just through our working community and through the cohort, that it's a journey, and you kind of have to walk hand in hand, not hand in hand, but kind of in a mentorship fashion with entrepreneurs, because a lot of us are one person operations. I think 90% of Black and brown businesses are like a one person company. So having that support and being able to bring that community support that Kepler is kind of fashion, as well as the education around how to be resourceful. Some of the things we learned from bootstrapping, lean models, relationships, social capital, leveraging that and helping community leverage that. So we've done a number of things that aren't even published in the cohort to kind of support entrepreneurs in and around the city, and so officially we want the coursework to be a year long, and I can kind of go into that as well too. But the due date is October 29th. So I'm sorry, September 29th. I'm sorry, September 29th. But we may extend it to October 3rd.
Just I did look at the pre-application, although I haven't filled it out yet, and there was 3 areas, and I just wanted to, based on the history of what you've done in the past, what are you looking for in answers, in those responses? Anything in particular? I'm sorry. Anything in particular to highlight? The questions are good questions. I just, yeah, just what are you looking for based on your, what you've learned from your previous cohorts?
And then after you answer this question, can we let Zalalem check in as well?
Yeah, so one of the things at the top of the list are those organizations that are interested in co-ops, either pivoting their organization or their project into a co-op, or starting off as a co-op. You heard Scarabus, which is a consultant, a for-profit consultancy around community, looking to now expand into a cooperative. And so that's one particular thing. And then I think second, right under that, are those entrepreneurs and organizations, nonprofits, for profits, black and brown owned, BIPOC owned, that are looking to work cooperatively. So they want to incorporate some type of social impact, in some type of social impact purpose into their particular business model. And some of the things that we look at and focus on are, of course, climate justice, food sovereignty, of course, community wealth building, entrepreneurship. There's a lot of things that we do in Canberra. And so food justice, housing, of course, with our community land trust. So we are definitely looking for entrepreneurs that are interested in housing, development, those particular things, creating community spaces. And then after that, just entrepreneurs, well, there is no after that. If you got to have a social impact, and you don't have to, but it really helps to have
Hey,
a
Damon,
social
real
impact.
quick, you mind giving a skinny on, for those who may not be familiar, what a cooperative is, how it's different from a regular business, why people might want to be a cooperative versus a regular business,
Sure,
and
and I'll
any
let Z
challenges
check
that.
in. Yeah, I'll let Z check in. I'll answer that question, and then maybe some of the curriculum will shine some light on some stuff too. But for sure, Z, Zalalum,
Hey.
number, color, and thank you, and your entrepreneurial endeavor.
All right. I'm feeling like dark green. I'm a 7.5. I have a handful, which is fun, but I think the one I'm hoping to join the cohort and learn more about and develop with community is a health cooperative, one based in Indy. So definitely seeing a need for not just intergenerational, but multi-sectoral, holistic care in a way that engages community to be direct solution creatives and makers for themselves. So, yeah, I'll pass it back in. Thank you for letting me check in.
Thank you, Zalalum. I also forgot to mention one of our focus areas is education, early childhood education. One of our businesses is a early childhood co-op, early growers. So that's one of the cooperatives who went through the last cohort. They also participated with some of the businesses that went through cohort 2. That also went through a cooperative cohort based out of Cincinnati through Co-op Cincy. We wrapped that up earlier this year. And so education is one of the bigger things. Daycares, childcare, early education is one of the focus areas as well. In general, to Alvin's question, the co-op is it's a one member, one vote. So it's essentially an organization that there is not one or a few owners who kind of dictate the rules and pay the workers. It is worker owned in most cases, or owned by a group of buyers. Other organizations can form a cooperative as well. But essentially, a co-op is an organization that has one member, one vote. And what that means is the members also get to vote in the management of their organization and where their organization goes. Also through their patronage or different forms of patronage. And patronage is just their activity and their involvement, their contribution to the organization. They receive a percentage of the surplus of that cooperative in proportion to that at the end of that year or whenever it's dictated by that co-op. And so it's really a way that for black and brown people in the United States, we've survived. And so the question has a lot of answers into the terms of what a co-op is. I remember church fish fries on Sunday, and that was cooperative activity. So Susus, family share groups, share clubs, community food pantries, community gardens. Those are all things that are cooperatively managed, and particularly for us that we've learned through going through a number of book studies around the Collective Courage book by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart, even meeting her in person and her doing a great presentation here, I think no less than 30 days ago or a few months ago. I think you can check it out on Alkhemy Plus. That is how we've survived through Gullah Geechee organization, co-ops based out of Mississippi. African Methodist Church, I believe, was formed as a cooperative. Just throughout history is how we've survived through slavery, Jim Crow, and what we're going through now. And what we see is a trend in cooperative behavior. When times get lean, people start to learn how to work with each other. But what we've also found is that when times are great, cooperatives also thrive as well. There are some organizations that are billion-dollar corporations. There are some sovereign parts of the world that are cooperatively owned. We talk about Mondragon, which is a huge Spanish cooperative that kind of has set a huge blueprint for the scale in terms of $1 billion of revenue, their own education system, their own territory, sovereign territory, all those things that can be accomplished through long-term work, community building, relationship building, and cooperative economics sustained consistently over the long term. You can build a lot. And so that's how I look at co-ops. The last thing I'll say about a cooperative is kind of the first cooperative is with family. And so family can be a cooperative as well. Or it is kind of the first formulations of a cooperative. But yeah, but technically, cooperatives can come in many forms. You can form cooperatives. And Indiana is known as a cooperative place, particularly around farm co-ops, rural cooperatives. We also have electric cooperatives in Indiana and in the Midwest, particularly around solar and things of that nature. And so a cooperative can run and operate just like any other organization. They have bylaws, there's governance, you can have executive directors, et cetera, et cetera. But essentially what it comes down to is one member, one vote. So in a sense, it's supposed to operate like a true democracy. So I have a share, you have a share, regardless of what my investment is and regardless of what your sweat equity is in it. We agree that we all have a share in this cooperative that we're all building together, and we all kind of rise and fall with it and expand, I should say, as the cooperative goes. That's a skinny without rambling. Any other questions? Any questions online? Any examples of cooperatives anybody want to share that I may have missed? Sure.
Yeah, I was saying I would like to make an attempt to repeat what you said pertaining to your co-op. It has to do with a group of creatives and entrepreneurs coming together and having some type of percentage of ownership and investment into the co-op, whether if it is using your skill set, sweat equity, social capital, whatever have you.
Correct. Yeah, that's a pretty good summary of it. And that contribution does not necessarily have to be equal going into the cooperative. And so there's some interesting things around that. We see what Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart coined as the fourth wave of cooperatives that's kind of rising now. And I won't go into details about that, but from my purview, there are a number of experiments in terms of what cooperatives can be and how they can be shaped and formed. And so you can have different stock tiers in cooperatives. So you can have A shares, B shares that mean different things in terms of voter rights, et cetera, and financial contributions. There's new vehicles like limited cooperative associations that are just kind of put together so that you can invest in a cooperative and still have equal or close to equal share on cooperatives. There's digital cooperatives. So there's technical cooperatives. So there's all particular type of ways that cooperatives are functioning. One of the things and one of the experiments we've done inside of Kepra is going through the experiment of formulating cooperative governing bylaws for a nonprofit. And so with nonprofits, there are a number of nonprofits that are moving over to self-governed cooperative bylaws for their nonprofit. So they keep their nonprofit status, but they operate cooperatively. LLCs are doing it as well. We have ESOPs, but co-ops are distinct in the fact that the split is equal through all members in that particular co-op, and then proportion to their contribution to that co-op. So, yeah, I'll stop there.
I have a quick question. First of all, it was great, high level overview. What are some of the unique challenges that the co-op approach experiences relative to traditional entrepreneurship?
Great question. Co-ops inherently move slower. There are ways around that you see some try, but I think by the structure of it, you'll see some of the voting shares have to be 75% or more, or there's a particular number that have to vote in, or you can vote different executive members to run the co-op as the owners of the cooperative, but making decisions are more democratic. You have more committees in cooperatives, and then sometimes you'll move a lot slower in making the decision as opposed to having one or two owners of the company to make the decision. But even in your governance with that, there are some smaller cooperatives that may, you really only need like 3 people, 2 people to have a cooperative, to form a cooperative, and then have open membership and grow from there. So with the smaller groups, you can move faster, but even still, putting together the governance of how you grow into working cooperatively is an extra consideration that you don't have to think about if you're just going to, scale your business as a single entrepreneur. So that's one of the things that's beneficial. That's I wouldn't even say it's a weakness of a co-op. It's just kind of how they move. But one of the things we noticed, or one of the data points in our research, is that cooperatives that last 10 years have a 90% more success rate than regular businesses that last that 10 years. So all businesses kind of, majority of them fail in the first year. Cooperatives are not the exception in that, but I do think that fundamental work of making sure that everybody has equal share and ownership in their autonomy and their work, and their contribution into the collective, and getting that right up front helps cooperatives in the long run. Another issue with cooperatives is I don't want to say they're counter to capitalism, but as we all know, the pyramid, one guy at the top started it. He bootstrapped, he did it himself, and he has workers that work under him, and he makes 200x his lower employee, and that's how, and you can do the same. So that's Uh, and so our system, our governments, our banks, um, hell, even our mindset is built on individualism, particularly around entrepreneurship. That is a playing field for individualism. Um, and cooperatives are they're not formed that way. They're not about that. They're counter to that, and so they're a lot. They aren't as well known. They aren't as well. They aren't as easy to set up as kind of standard businesses. And so there are some states like California, Boston, Illinois, like that have better cooperative governance. But even in the state of Indiana, I think we're limited in the number of cooperatives that they recognize. I think there's farm cooperatives, electric cooperatives. There are some worker cooperatives, but I don't think they talk about things like tech cooperatives or multi-tier cooperatives yet. Um, what I talked about earlier with the Limited Cooperative Association, I think like only Kentucky and maybe one or two other states recognize those particular things. So, um, um, uh, yeah, I'll stop there on the answers. Those are some of the limitations to cooperative structures. But even within those, um, I think those are things that you're going to have to maneuver through as a regular organization, whether you're LLC, a cooperative, a nonprofit, or whatever. So, yeah, I'll stop there. It's about 6:55. Any other questions, or I did want to kind of splash into the curriculum and kind of talk about that and what would be kind of covered in the first few blocks of the cooperative. But okay, cool. So, this is a high level schedule of the cooperative. So the first, again, we talked about the structure of the cooperative really being around 1 year, broken into blocks. And so each block will be a quarter long, and then at the end of the block we'll have a showcase. And in that showcase there'll be opportunities to pitch, show, et cetera, the work and the entrepreneurship in which you've built, in that particular quarter. And then we'll have a month break after that. And then we'll start the second block after that. And so, for example, for this first block, we're starting October 15th. Our first workshop class will be that following week on October, I believe, the 23rd, which is a Thursday. And we'll have hybrid / in-person workshops every Thursday evening, pretty much until our last class being December 18th. Of course, we have Thanksgiving off and things of that nature. But essentially, there'll be workshops throughout that time in this first block. And so those workshops will be on Thursday between sorry about that, 6 to 7:30, and then we'll probably have a little bit more time to stay after on 8 for those. But essentially what we're covering in a lot of these cohorts, or a lot of the subject work that we've covered in previous cohorts. Sorry, we had some people come through the door. I was just checking. Our first cohort workshop being about business formulation, filings, and compliance. We talked about that. And then when we come back for our coursework, we have topics like defining what community wealth building means. We also talk about what does community wealth building in action look like? How do we track our impact? How do you set your community wealth building goals? We also talk about the art of the start. We bring a lot of the OGs from the Kepler space into a lot of these sessions as well, to share some insights on the art of the start and how we got started from a bootstrap organization to where we're at now. Yes. Okay, and then we have sessions around people-centered assets, archetypes for innovation, and then we also have some guest presenters coming as well to talk about pitch perfect performances, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that we're doing that's a little slightly different in this cohort is, in addition to touching over the community wealth building aspects of it, both talking about what that looks like in your in your organization, and how you can incorporate community wealth building principles in your organization, regardless of how it's structured as a nonprofit, LLC, or cooperative, and then also talking about how that will look as a cooperative. And so we have some assessments and conversations around need states and what your vision is now, where it needs to be in the future, and what needs to be in place for that to take shape. And so over the course of the first 90 days, which is
Has this serenading anybody yet?
with this block one, is we're getting comfortable with what community wealth building looks like. What does a social enterprise look like? How can I incorporate some of those things in my current organization or in the organization I'm building? At the same time, too, we're going to do some visioning in the first quarter. So one of the courses that we have online now at alchemy.kepler.org is our Art of the Start course. And it pretty much is a course that we developed internally from a community-based creative entrepreneur perspective. So it's really practical. So it's a fun workshop. We're pretty much going to create our own vision board for what our organization looks like now, what we want it to look like, or what the organization we're building is going to look like. And we're going to leverage that workshop over the first 2 weeks in the cohort to then come back and then set goals for our organization. And then from there, we're going to use that to put together our pitches, et cetera, for our showcases. And then once that is taking place, we also look at what are some of the other needs that you need as an entrepreneur. So we'll do some assessments around that. One of the major things that we do throughout the cohort is assess where organizations are at in terms of our KIF integrated fund. Really trying to make sure that if not through us, your organization is in the best situation to receive grants or to go after additional financing and funding for that particular organization. And so those are some of the high-level topics we'll be covering over the first block of the cooperative. But essentially, after that vision and planning and doing that initial assessment, we look at what are those organizations that are geared towards becoming cooperatives, and how can us as an organization support those organizations that are looking to become more cooperative or convert to co-ops, so that they can stand up and have some sustainability. And I've mentioned some of the co-ops that we've helped stand up. Of course, Kepler being a nonprofit co-op, our community land trust, as well as the Early Growers Cooperative, BGU, which is a collective local farmer growers cooperative. So we just really want to continue that particular type of work. And that's not to say that there aren't opportunities and resources for whatever particular type of structure, because we really want to build a community of cooperation regardless of church, nonprofit, activists, whatever you are. But co-ops is really kind of our area of focus. And also internally through our KIF program, we're looking at ways that we can build other sustainable models, like farming, like housing, through cooperatives. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at in the organization around what cooperation looks like. And one of the great examples is just looking at what they've done in Ohio between Co-op Cincy, Co-op Dayton, Cleveland Evergreen Fund. There's just a number of things they've done in Ohio that have support BIPOC, Black and Brown communities with proven track records. And so those are things that we can duplicate as well, or that we or excited about exploring and sharing and learning and building with community. Yeah. Any other questions?
I don't know what else was on the agenda like that, but I would be curious to hear from uh, folks in the room who are aspiring entrepreneurs like myself. You know, as Damon and I are crafting up the curriculum, you know, what are challenges that you're having in your entrepreneurial journey? Places where you could use some tactics and tools to make it better. I would just be curious to hear about some of those pieces from folks in attendance today, just to make sure we're hitting all the pain points. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I would say specific. I feel like I've been feeling this one a lot. In just like working as part of the Kepler team, and that is an entrepreneurial project. But I feel this one like generally as well. But um, kind of like evaluating opportunities. Like deciding what opportunities are really the best opportunities to be taken on when it comes to generating revenue, building your team, new resources and investments and stuff like that. And then I think related to that, you know, how to create or find opportunities when it doesn't seem like there's any, when there aren't necessarily any clients hitting your inbox, or nothing new coming up anytime soon where you can go set up a table or anything like that, that kind of stuff. How do you find opportunities when they aren't clearly presented to you, or create your own? So
It's a good one,
Not
Miss
too
Lady.
far off from Chin, I think I'd add just the piece about the relationships and how cooperatives are people who come together with like shared vision or mission, how what it takes to do that and get buy-in, not just from those folks, but potential stakeholders, people who might be interested in becoming a part of that community or cooperative. And then, maintaining that growth. Because I think when Dr. Jessica Gordon Emhart was here, we talked about, some of these cooperatives like are no longer here, but, their influence and impact have stayed. So, what does that look like too? And how do we maintain that?
Any others?
Well, I got a question. It's not really related to that. So if you want to, I don't know if you want to answer that first and then come back to me.
Yeah, I don't know if that was meant to be answered. I can definitely take a stab at it. I know we were
Oh, okay.
taking things down that are supposed to be for pain points for entrepreneurs, but I definitely wrote down finding opportunities and focus, maintaining relationships and buy-in from community before, during, and after co-ops. So we can talk around those things. I definitely want to, if others had kind of pain points that they're looking down, get them down and then like go back and tackle them. So Tara, for sure.
Okay. Okay, my bad. I misunderstood the assignment. So, um, yeah, I think for me, um, starting out, and I mean, what I've heard from like more in like the traditional entrepreneurial lane and stuff of like the tactics to like obtaining resources, specifically money. And it's like, um, I don't want to go about it in those ways and stuff. So, but I know that there are creative ways to obtain money and resources, but I um, am struggling to figure out how as a startup. Well, I have some ideas, but to actually make it like sustainable. Or just, yeah. I hope that made sense.
No, for sure.
Okay.
Something where to start is a perplexes a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly creative ones, because we have a lot of ideas, a lot of good ideas. Any other questions? I'm about to start picking on people. Joyce, I heard you have a lawn service. Any pain points that you facing, Joyce? Ah, Joyce stepped off.
Here I am. I'm sorry. um, my lawn service, my husband had already had the business started when we got married. So I just joined in with him. Um, and we go through social media, we word of mouth, friends, family, Miss Paulette Fair. Um, we do all that we can and um, to help, to be of service in our communities, our families, our elderly, anybody that we can help, not to be um, a burden for them. Um, so I don't know anything else to say.
Thank you for contributing. Hello, Deja. Any pain points you're experiencing with the bakery or getting the
Um,
bakery started?
um, well, I've been getting out in the community to sell my cookies and stuff. Just asking people in the neighborhood, and then I bump into people on my street. So I just haven't had the LLC part, and just I just want to be a little bit more official, and I want to eventually create jobs for my families and people in my community. I also desire to help in my community, whether it's someone else's business or, nonprofits and stuff like that, so I can just be able to show my daughter just a different view of life than how I see, or how they teach you in school, so
Nice.
I want to be able to like learn how to articulate a little bit better, and just build those connections with different people in the community that have business and stuff like that.
I got a question for you. What's the best part of your cookies?
Um, for me, it would be just the baking. It kind of just gives me something to do. I've gotten some peace from it.
Mm,
Um, yeah,
thanks for
yeah.
sharing.
And I like to be able to get out and talk to people. I have a probably struggle with a little bit of anxiety, but I like it. Being able to get out and talk to people.
Yeah, cookies are a great conversation piece for me, anyway.
Mhm.
And Elton, I'm gonna pick on you. Struggles as an entrepreneur.
I mean, to be honest, it's really if you didn't know, Joyce is my mom. You feel me? So we really do the same thing. So
Oh,
my
y'all.
really my worry is getting a truck. You feel me? Cause I have a car, but it's not able to move the equipment that I need.
Sweet. Truck purchase. Practical. For sure. Asset management.
Damon,
Yes.
I would just like to ask, how did I know how Joyce heard about the program, because I was telling her, and she told me she was planning to have her son be a legal part of her business, her and her husband's business. And I told her, I says, well, why don't you come to our cohort and work a collective in your family so that it's not just one person with the responsibility for everything. The cohort will help spread and then one person can be in charge of all the money and, well, just come and find out from you about this cooperative. So I'd like to know how others heard about the session tonight.
Great question. Great question. Anybody online?
Maybe the young man that just finished speaking.
Well, I know Elton is with Miss Joyce.
Oh, I see.
Miss Joyce told Elton to be on this call.
Also, I'm sorry, this is Miss Joyce too. Daisy's my daughter as well.
Okay. And Miss
We
Daisy.
have been a part of this organization for a long, many years. And we want to be a better part, a even greater part of the community. In more ways than one, not just one way or our way or what we think, but we want to be better at helping our community as well as helping ourselves, but more of our community than ourselves. But if we don't have what we need, then we're not of great service to our community.
For sure. What's the name of the service, the lawn care service?
It's called Perry's Lawn Service. And we've worked with.
They do great work.
Well, thank you.
For sure. I believe it.
When we say great work, we're talking not only lawns around people's houses, we're talking about fields.
Mm-hmm.
Fields,
Acres.
timeliness, quality work. You call them, spot on. Next day it's done.
Perry's Lawn Service. Drop a link in the chat for sure. Can't wait to. But to your point, Ms. Paulette, the family co-ops are a great way to get that started. We've been talking about that in my family as well. Getting there slowly but surely. But I do think from it being a family business, there is some structure already in place around it. And it sounds like you may already be doing a lot of, or may already have a lot of cooperative behaviors in the organization that lend itself to that and making it official. One of the things that co-ops, businesses, those are great ways.
You got it.
Damon, can you say a little bit more about cooperative behaviors and family, et cetera? I heard you allude to behavior as a part of, I guess, the culture of cooperative work.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of what is one of the fundamental. Well, I took out of the book, Collective Courage, is just it's cooperation. There's nothing that has ever been done without cooperation, and so it's something that we've gotten away from. I think, particularly in this society, or in the, one that's capitalistic leaning, is a lot more about individualism. I think, but the journey of BIPOC people coming up in America has been sustained through cooperation, through working with each other for the sustainability, survival, and the thriving of each other. Each one teach one, for us, by us. Those are, at least where I come from, those are fundamental family principles. I can never say this right. Multi-generational are one thing that families are as a nucleus, and co-ops lend themselves to that. Particularly how we work here at Kepra is multi-generational. We always try to have a youth. I think Khaled's been quiet. Did Khaled check in? College, he didn't check in. The 13-year-old didn't check in. He trying to escape. College, you got to check in. Uh, Even to my cousin who's over here who just literally got out of college. He's about 20 something years younger than me. But he's here. He's learning about co-ops and in the business and looking to start his own thing. And my goal as a fellow entrepreneur and as his family is to like, bro, don't do this. These are mistakes that I made. And I think those things are all inherent in the cooperative and just how we've kind of come up as a society and sustained ourselves as black and brown people, in America, basically.
My number is 7. My color is blue. And what's the second question? Yeah, I'm working on Shopify. There you go. Because I'm not.
Hey y'all, Nas here, 9.5 Purple, and entrepreneurial project I'm involved in. I am currently a manager for a band out in Cincinnati called Silk Tongue, and also the owner of not a full business yet. I'm learning how to make that process happen, and it'd be a good time to ask this question in a second, but working on getting this established, All Chords Incorporated. It's a group that creates spaces for artists and art lovers to enjoy art of all kinds. Hosted festivals, live events, things of that nature so far. And yeah, that's what I do. I'm gonna ask a question real quick. My biggest issue has been figuring out how to go from community organizing to being established in community to kind of being established corporately. How to get the bigger dollars, get funded sponsorships, how to kind of present myself or present the work that I've done so far in a way that's more professional. Thanks for the space, y'all.
Thank you. I think I heard scale is one of the main things in that question. I think the OGs can answer that one. Do the right thing the right way for a long time. Never quit. And then that's how you get there.
Actually, I think I heard inside his question, not just scaling, but how to pitch or even like communicate your history of work and its impact to people. So the communication piece or like presentation piece.
For sure.
Which I guess we'll be learning. Nas, you should join the cohort because we're gonna learn how to pitch.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that we talk about in the cohort is kind of what that vision for your organization is. I think that question, it's a funny question for me. Because you kind of do it out of, Em can help me out if I start to stumble here, but as an entrepreneur, you kind of doing it out of necessity. It's kind of like an itch that like, if I don't know it, I'm going to figure it out. Or I'm going to find somebody in community that has that particular skill set that I don't have and partner with them. And with like-mindedness and we want to go in the same direction and, we built trust and there's relationship there. I'm just really looking back at how my entrepreneurial journey has scaled. It was a lot of me doing a lot of messing up and finally figuring out what value I could bring to the customers that I was trying to serve, and making sure that I delivered on that and that part was consistent. And so I think that's really one of the initial fundamental first steps in your entrepreneurial journey is figuring out what that one particular core service, core niche that you have and that can offer that brings value. And that'll change and that'll grow over time. just based on the response and what you learn from that initial offering. But I think we can
I
get
like to add
lost in
something
the.
real.
Go ahead.
Damn, let me add something real quick. Ditto all of that. Skinny, I would say entrepreneurs do a lot of failing.
Right.
You know, you do any study on entrepreneurs, you know, it's the fourth or fifth time around before you even know enough to get it right. So you had, and that means you got to have the kind of archetype or of not being pained by making lots of mistakes. You got to have a high risk, a high tolerance for risk to really do entrepreneurship at a high level. And last but not least, I would say, well, two more. Really critical self-assessment. Damon mentioned that too. That what are your strengths, and then how do you make sure you put around you folks that strengthen the pieces that you don't do well. And that also is just the journey of learning what you do well is a journey, and then identifying other folks to be in your circle and have the resilience to keep it moving, uh, rain or shine, is I think really important. I think if you didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial space or entrepreneurial community or family, that it would be helpful to identify a partner or another member of your crew that just comes naturally with that particular lived experience. Um, yeah, but and then mentors. You want to identify some mentors, shadow folks. If there's certain things you want to know, you don't know how to do. Other people out here that have come before you, that've done this kind of stuff, you just model and suck up some of those lessons. Even if you had to go and do that, donate your time in exchange for acquiring some additional skill sets.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, M. For sure, all those points. I think the one that you said that really stood out for me, I'll just give a personal example, is that um, you're not going to have everything you need to be well. You have everything you need to be successful, but as an entrepreneurship, you're going to fail, and so part of that failing is learning what skills you need to either acquire yourself or bring onto your team. Um, and my personal example, I'm in business with my sister, and we grew an agency and continue to work as a creative agency, uh, going on 10 years now. But uh, she's not the extrovert. Like, I'm the extrovert, but I'm not the money manager. She's the one who can run the finances and has the more logical brain
Okay.
in that sense. And being able to lean on that and understand that
Baby, talk about it.
and build
So
trust
our families can do this.
is has been critical to our success, and even that kind of translated into how we built our initial core team, and some of the stuff that we'll talk about in the cohort. One of the books that we kind of do some workshops out of is a book called Traction, which talks about the EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. We also talk about E-Myth Mastery, and there's just these different roles that you play in the organization, but you either have those different roles within you: the visionary, the integrator, the technician. Those are all kind of different personalities that are needed to make organizations tick. I think of what we call the three-legged stool, or the elders, Pambana, uh, Miss Paulette, and Imhotep. And I remember Imhotep before, after working with them, and so that taught me a lot too in terms of like leaning on community and leaning on others and playing your role in whatever size that group is to get to first and foremost as an entrepreneur for me has been some sense of sustainability, and then from there, um, being able to support and grow first in your purpose and in your own self mastery so that you can kind of build relationships and build a larger community base and groundswell. But I mean, all these entrepreneurs that have these questions, don't none of this get done without action. if you're not taking action on a daily basis on where you want to go as an entrepreneur, even if that's just reading an article a day or just mentioning your idea to somebody, you have to get that accountability partner around you. M mentioned mentors. Mentors are a great way to do that. I need a lot of accountability around me, so I have peer groups, my wife, business partners, et cetera, therapy. Like those are all things that help hold me accountable to what I say I want to set myself towards. But action builds motion, motion builds momentum, and momentum builds movements. But none of that starts without action. And so, and action is not contemplating to yourself. Action is a verb. It's out loud. It's a proclamation. You can't really commit to it till you've shared it with somebody else. I mean, you can commit to it, but it has a different weight to it once you've spoken it out into the universe. And so, finding that person that you trust with that diamond of an idea, and continuing to try to grow in that, and having them hold you accountable, somebody you trust is going to be critical to your growth as an entrepreneur. Cool. It's 7:30. I hope everybody click on that link. We'll be having more information coming out around the cooperative. But again, don't forget to click on that link in the chat. It did go out in a newsletter as well. Really excited about some of the ideas and what we've heard. A lot of great business ideas, a lot of services that we need within community: education, lawn care, housing, food security. We work with a construction cooperative, education. These are all things that not only there are models for success, but they also build community sustainability as well. So we're excited about this cohort. Open the floor to any other questions as well too. Okay. Well, I'm gonna hand it back to you, Chin.
Well, hey man, I'm ready to get off, man. It was a great presentation. Thank you. Looking forward to participating.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah, well, we can go ahead and wrap it up here for the day. Thank you very much, Damon. Round of applause, snaps for Damon. One more time, everybody. Current deadline to submit your pre-application is September 29th, possibly getting extended to October 3rd. More information coming soon. Kyla, could you swing the camera back towards me? More information coming soon. Go to alchemy.kepler.org to learn more information. You can also get some more information when you check out the pre-approval link to stay up to date on all the new info coming out about this cohort, everything else going on in the Kepler space, including more resources for entrepreneurs. Once again, Alchemy Plus, alchemy.kepler.org. Join our community social media platform. You can also get weekly updates on information and stuff like that from our newsletter at newsletter.kepler.org. And then one more time, I'll say, as always, shout out to the Indianapolis Recorder for their support of the Kepler Institute, of Mumbo Jumbo Community Conversations, for allowing us to live stream these conversations to their Facebook platform. Always got to shout them out as an example of a cooperatively minded institution that's been doing a lot of good work here in the city for a very long time. And then, as always, if you want to support us, if you want to support our work, including projects like the Alchemy entrepreneurial incubator cohorts. Please make a donation. Please make a contribution. You can do that at donate.kepler.org. You can do that at kepler.org/mumbo jumbo whenever you're RSVPing for the next session, where we will actually be continuing our book study of Collective Courage by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhard. So you can learn more about cooperative organizing and the history of black cooperatives in the United States there. Yeah, see y'all at the cohort. Thanks, everybody.
Woohoo! Thanks. Bye. Have a good night.
Thank y'all.